Khaled, thank you very much for joining this set of sessions, which I'm doing with the financial experts and from the technical perspective. So you are one of the experts which I know very well. And it's a pleasure to see you here, and I'm sure that our audience will enjoy our discussion today.
Thank you for hosting me in this podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, Khalid, well, obviously, I know you very well, but can you please tell our readers and listeners a little bit about your career in the banking, or in general, like on the technical side?
Well, in technical, it's much more like wider and longer than banking. Basically, I started my career in late 96, let's say 97, and till moment. Um, I started in web applications development, uh, then portal developments in the 2000s, early 2000s, where the dot-coms bubble bursted. And then into back-end systems like ERP implementation, uh, Java back-end services implementation and deployments. And then I moved into mobile application development and going live with production and SMS gateways and SMS revenue sharing models with mobile operators systems. And then I moved into banking slash mobile telco data implementation or data engineering projects starting 2013. So my banking started, my technical banking started in 2013. In that particular time, I mean 2013 onwards, um, the projects I managed and worked on hands-on started with what we call polyglot persistent systems, where you have for any given bank. I started with a bank, one of the biggest, actually the biggest bank in the UK, to implement a polyglot data persistence system, which basically uh, would require you to persist or store the data of that business entity or the bank into multiple versions and schemas and engines as much as possible with different representations. So you have the same data or customer information, for example, in different formats and schemas in different storage systems. So this way you would have the same data but represent in different representations and for different purposes and values or business values for that bank. We had a polyglot system that um, persists data, 5 sync connectors or sync systems like Elasticsearch, uh, graph databases, simple RDBMS database, streams as in MQ series and topics or stream, message event driven system, and file system as bare metal file systems. So this way you have this same version of data in multiple versions or systems and schemas. It was quite a big project, and we persisted and processed 1.5 billion records of data maybe into these subsystems or different systems. Uh, then I moved into the same concept, but with a different financial system, which is not a bank. It's a mobile telco, which, well, mobile operators, you can consider them as a bank, right? Because they have money as well. And they lend people as well. They whatever they lend you as minutes, you can consider it as money, right?
Yep.
And a big example of um, considering mobile operators as banks or financial systems is that they persist billing systems, right? They bill you and they deduct credit from you, right? So like somehow a bank. Then I switched back to a real bank as we speak. Now I'm currently blowing my fifth year in a local bank here in Jordan, where I'm managing the whole data department, data engineering plus data warehouse plus data management systems and business intelligence reporting as we speak now. I mean.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. You have pretty much extensive experience. Well, since your last journey or current journey is about data warehouse, I would like maybe speak about this a bit more today. So, uh, do you have maybe, well, or maybe you can just outline what is the importance of having a data warehouse in the bank? Because, I know a few banks which are running without a data warehouse at all. So, what role do they play in the business or actually in the bank?
Yeah. Uh, well, it's one role, simply put in one statement, but it has like maybe 1 hour or 2 hours of explaining because it's very critical for the business as well, which is the golden source of truth. Okay, so this word is so simple. It's only 3 words, but well, it has lots of meaning because a bank, especially a bank which holds customer information as non-financial, I mean the KYC, what they call the KYC, and their financial assets, the customers, I mean. And the magical thing about financial systems, they have behaviors on the data or the assets the customers hold. Uh, but by assets, I mean like deposits, loans, salary accounts, you name it. So the bank, the business, has to, it's a must actually, that they can easily know where do they stand and financially and non-financially with their customers and internally inside their own house. I mean like their own internal accounting. Are they making money or not? I mean, as a bank. And it's not healthy, and actually it's not financially healthy to know your standing with your customers and with yourself as a bank only as of current moment. Okay, it's nice to have to know where do you stand as a bank with your customers now, but I need as a bank to know, am I moving correctly by time or not? Did I perform well last month or the previous quarter or last year compared to this year or not? To get that knowledge of information and a report, if you want to call it report, or a trend report, you need to have one source of truth where you persist this moving target, if you want to call it moving target, which is the data changes, I mean, into one place so you can easily detect that trend, whether it's performing well or not. Whether it's on a granular level, on a customer base, even nitty-gritty customer, or a group of customers, or a type of customers like retail, corporate, SMEs, or me as a bank itself internally. I need to see where I'm standing in profit and loss, etc. So this is why it is. Oh, I'm back to your question: is why do financial institutes need data warehouse? Where's the big value in that for business? Um, well, and then how to implement such thing is the is where I come from. I mean, where the implementation of this thing is the beauty of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that probably will be my next question. Well, can you name key five phases or milestones of building a data warehouse for the bank?
Uh, well, I'll tell you the five milestones from my 5 years in the bank when I started. Number five is is happening too much here.
Magical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the first important milestone is to understand the source systems. Where from where would you pull the data that you need to build this beautiful data warehouse? What am I pulling data from? Am I pulling it from a banking system? Am I pulling it from a CRM system? Is it Salesforce? Is it Jira? Is it what source of systems do I have to use? And the problem with this is not only to identify it. You can easily identify what your source data is. The big question is, can I trust the data in that system or not? So this is the first milestone, which is it a garbage or near garbage or pure validated data or not? Hopefully it's the latter because you would like to work with clean data, right? Because as everybody says, garbage in, garbage out. You don't want to bump into this situation, right? So first milestone is understanding the data sources, uh, uh, who adds the data, who inserts the data in those systems. Is it inserted there properly or not through gateways? I mean, quality gateways or not? Is it auditable or not? That's the first milestone, which is like maybe the the most important one. Now, the second milestone is okay. Well, we found the golden source. Let's call it a golden source or sources, because in banks specifically, you don't have only one system that runs the whole bank, right? The second milestone is to finish and correctly select which fields or data points you would like to use from these source systems. Because you can't simply just pull everything from these source systems, which means you didn't do anything magical, but if you do that. And selecting these fields requires lots of statistical and interaction with business teams, because not everything is important business wise from business level, from all fields in those systems. Most of the systems, for most of the fields in those systems are control fields and management fields, not value driven by business. So this is the second milestone: finishing, closing, or selecting what fields you need from these systems, from these input systems. Third one is okay. Now, but it's a technical milestone to achieve or reach, is to understand speed of change of these selected fields. Are they quickly changing or lazily changing? Uh, why should I reach that milestone and finish it and accomplish it? Is because it's very important for capacity and planning for the architecture of the data warehouse that I would like to. Once I identify all the selected fields, how the speed of change, I can handcraft and design the proper entities that will store these fields. Just not to make this like example oriented by speed of change. I mean like uh, how much, how quickly the balance of an account changes. Is it changing daily, monthly, hourly, etc.? And the KYC, for example, your phone number, let's say the customer phone number, how much how fast is it to be changed during time? Do customers change their mobile number every 3 years or 1 month, etc.? Of course, that's statistical, not a rigid number of hours, days, etc. Milestone 4 is the lockdown of the design and the standard that you will adopt in building the facts and dimensions, lookups, and the artifacts which is basically the milestone of designing the framework of the data warehouse. And based on that, you will design as well the data models to be used by a business team. Like for example, a risk team, for example, would like to have a data model that they will use for their own business reporting that would need to have A, B, C, D data points, and they want it to be captured daily or monthly, quarterly, whatever. And achieving that design is part of the milestone number 4. The milestone 5 is to lock down the implementation plan and the mechanics of how you would implement this data warehouse. Is it waterfall? Is it agile, sprint based to release the entities on sprints? It's a management milestone where you identify and confirm, let's say, the implementation plan and the approach you will use to implement that data. So these like 5 milestones you would like to achieve, and then anything else afterwards would become the tasks between these milestones, right? But these milestones are like well achieved. Um, Consider you a bit like a full data warehouse financially.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's like a manual for someone who would like to create. uh, uh, Khaled, can you just maybe also elaborate a little bit about the architecture side, about technical side? Well, I know there are different type of architecture which can be applied in terms of the building data warehouse. How to decide on the right architecture?
um, well, it's like you're asking me whether how many tiers should I have in implementing the data warehouse, or whether to how much to hold data from source systems and the data pipeline design or architecture. Well, for banks in specific, it's that's my own opinion. Probably some others will disagree. It's best to use either a 2-tier or 3-tier architecture. Uh, Basically, data is mostly transactional, right? And you need a staging area, what we call staging area, to populate and load the data, the transactional data, some place, right? Especially on daily basis because we're a bank, right? And then you build on that staging area data, whatever you pulled on daily basis, into a transformation process where you crunch that data and from the staging area and append it into your data warehouse um, facts and dimensions entities incrementally by time on daily basis. You have to do that unless you would like to cut the whole this whole lineage of data and simply do it in one tier and just push the data into the data models without like a multi-step approach. A multi-step approach or 2-tier or 3-tier design or architecture is also needed to reconcile your data while you are transforming the data. You need to over and over, of course, automatically, not manually, to on a daily basis to reconcile your count of transactions versus the balance of each account. So you have they have to match, otherwise you're not doing your job properly. Um, this reconciliation of all accounts must happen in a multi-stage, right? So you need multiple tiers to do that the reconciliation and verification. So well, again, this is my opinion to do it, but others can do directly push data into data models and then build the facts and dimensions from the data models. That's another approach, which is doable as well. But probably the source systems will uh, twist your arms and like force you to use the two-tier or three-tier design to make sure that you're pulling the data correctly and reconciling it.
Yeah. Well, the amount of opinions is equal to the amount of people. So I think everyone has its own opinion, but yours, I believe, is a very good approach of doing things. So, and thank you very much for sharing this. Can you, Khaled, name, please, the three biggest challenges of building a data warehouse which you faced?
Uh, it goes back to the milestones thing, the question you just asked
Yeah.
me. My biggest challenge was in understanding the source systems. It was like it was a tough journey, yet challenging. So, but it's the challenge actually. If you know the source systems and you know how data is uh, crud in it, I mean like added, deleted, etc., you would like cover maybe more than 60%, 70% of your challenges. Um, the, the most important thing about systems is why is this system here? I mean, this for business. I mean, why do I have a core system, core banking system that manages deposits, for example, in this way? This way, I mean, the workflow that is in the banking system. I mean, why is it like this? I mean, I need to understand that. You won't find that easily in a user manual. Someone, a vendor or a implementation team did that workflow for a reason, and you can't easily get that reason simply out of the mouth of someone, right? That's the hardest. That's the challenge. Actually, this is the first challenge I faced. Actually, the biggest one. Actually, the challenge in building the data warehouse, which is the second challenge, was is data loading. I mean, and reconciliation, the the automation of data loading. I mean, uh, you you don't want to load the data uh, manually, for example, right? And you don't want to wake up at 2 a.m. or maybe at 8 a.m. and discover that something broke while you're asleep, right? So the challenge is, can I I mean, well, actually, it is currently as we, it's it's an ongoing challenge. Uh, can I rectify and fix the data loading automated process on the fly without me waking up? Okay, you see, uh, 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 I mean, me, not me and the team actually, because I can't fix everything myself. Uh, would you be able, as a data engineer, um, automate data loading from all these source systems, reconcile and validate the data automatically, and handle duplicate records, for example, automatically, and unchecked balances, as we mentioned earlier. Uh, that's business checking, right? What about disk spaces and constraint violation in primary foreign keys, etc.? What if someone during the day added a field alphanumeric while he should have 1, 2, 3, I mean, numeric values, and things broke up? I mean, what would you do automatically? That's a big challenge. Actually, this is the challenge of all data engineers every now and then. I mean, it's our job. It's the story of our lives, actually. Uh, the third challenge, uh, um, but in banks, probably this is easy challenge, but it is a challenge. Is to find the best stack to use. I mean, the stack, the which database engine to use, which automation tool to use to run the data pipeline, um, which performance metrics you to put on your automated processes to do. Okay, I need to load the data and populate it in the data warehouse in less than X minutes, for example. That's a challenge. So you have to pick the proper resources, hardware, software, licenses, um, to meet that KPI, right? That's the third challenge. It's a pure technical challenge, actually. And in that challenge as well, the resources, I mean, the people, the engineers that you should work with. I mean, the stack plus the resources who will work on the stack as a combo. That's a challenge. So these are the three challenges. Like, let me brief you. The understanding the source systems. Second is the automation and handling errors on the fly, if possible. And the third is proper technology stack and resources to use.
Yeah, thank you very much. Khaled, I have my next question is about hosting and deploying this data warehouse. What are the pros and cons of deploying a data warehouse, for example, in the cloud versus on premises? I mean, inside the bank.
Mm-hmm. Well, banks are sensitive, but let's not talk about the problem of governance, etc., about the data. But the only pros I see in cloud for anything, for any service, not only banks, is elasticity. And you can expand horizontally and vertically as much as flexible as you want. Don't worry about stretching your resources on the cloud. That's the only pros. Everything else is a con in cloud. I mean, cost, monitoring is a headache. Although things work well on the cloud, you're transparent for any downtimes, let's call it. But again, there are downtimes in the cloud. Nobody can tell you like we don't face a downtime, right? But you don't see that through monitoring tools. They're transparent and like just flip another microservice and you're fine. You don't feel it. Um, but this comes with a big bill every month. uh, so this is the pros only is the elasticity vertically and horizontally in the cloud on the cloud. I know cloud people will hate me now for this, but I have this is my own opinion. Versus on-prem, well, on-prem has lots of cons, which is the things that are in the cloud, like elasticity. There's no, it's not easy to have stretching your resources on premise easily. I mean, your data center has its own capacity, and you're sharing this data center with all the bank. I mean, it's not your data center as a data warehouse or data engineering system team. So we we can't hostile take over all the disks and build the magnificent data warehouse just because we own the data. That's that's not okay. Yeah, this is so selfish actually, and which requires the data center to procure more disk, RAM, virtualization, which introduces lots of management and management. I mean, DevOps and infra and network management and infosec like security, etc. So that's a that's a problem. But the pros of that is that you hold the data in your house and nobody can, well, not nobody, it's less uh, vulnerable from the cloud. I mean, for attacks, hacks, whatever you call it. And you store your data in your own building, right? And not shared on the cloud. Although the cloud has its own security rules and governance now, it's becoming much more rigid.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Well, now, Khaled, I would like to speak a little bit about Oracle. So many banks build their DVH using Oracle database management system. Can you recommend an open source database management system which can be used for building a DVH for a bank?
Yeah, sure. Well, my recommendation is would not be possibly too scientific because some people would disagree with that. But I find Postgres is a fine database for data warehouse implementation. It has its own problems, I'm sure. It's a nightmare sometimes, uh, especially the community version or the open source version. I didn't test the enterprise version of it. I mean, sure, it's more stable, it has lots of features. But in general, Postgres probably probably is a good engine to use for data warehouse as an open source version of it.
Okay, well, this is very perfect. I think, well, the readers and listeners would love this answer. Some of them, as you said. What project management methodology is more suitable for such project? Well, you already mentioned agile, waterfall, and stuff like that. But what is your personal opinion?
Uh, Personally, I pushed to use the agile practice. One of the main reasons I forced myself to use agile is at the beginning I was not like it was totally a research for me when I joined the bank. So a waterfall or a rigid implementation approach would not totally fit. So I took the project as a experiment mode with the guys. I mean the team. Let's see how can we build our first small newbie data warehouse instant like it's version like 0.1 version. So it, it involved lots of exploration, reporting in not reporting as data reporting on status, like what did you find in the core banking? What did you find in the KYC update database? Did you find a field that talks about mobile numbers or not? Where did you find the balances of the loans? How is balances are calculated in the core banking system? Um, Lots of questions that does not have answers. So that's why we chose the agile approach. Uh, we kept doing like that till moment actually, but um, after maybe after 6 months of the iterations, uh, we kept using agile approach, but we are now mechanically using the same velocity of delivery, and we know what we should do every sprint, which which is somehow like a waterfall approach, but it's a very short waterfall approach. It's a 2 weeks approach, waterfall approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my okay, my answer is I went agile, but you can go waterfall as well. If
Yeah.
your customer would be patient enough to wait for you to deliver a version of your mobile for your data warehouse after 1 year.
Yeah, thank you very much for it, Khaled. And so basically, and you know that very well, worldwide regulations are changing uh, on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis quite often. And that means that, well, obviously, should be some changes to be done in the core banking systems and etc. So how often, because well, core banking system and other systems, they are source of your information, and how often do you make changes in your data marts and adopt those extract, transform, load mechanism in order to be compliant or actually in line with the changes in the source systems?
um, well, our our core banking system, especially specifically the core banking system, not the other systems. I mean, not the KYC, not the business process management system, etc. Uh, it depends on configuration based. It's not implementation based. I mean, when we introduce a new loan product, let's say, or a deposit product, it's a configuration matter in the core banking system instead of implementing it uh, uh, as a workflow. And we shy away from implementing anything on the core banking system. We consider it as a money holder only. So when a new product is introduced, it's dynamically populated in our automated daily data load, which is one of the challenges you asked me about. So we handled that this way. um, uh, so we wake up the second day and we see the new service or product populated in the data warehouse. Yet, back to your question, the data model might be, we need a new data model for that specific new product, let's say. Luckily, we don't introduce new big bank services or products every week. Like we probably actually we introduce new things, if you want to call them things. I mean, like services, products, every month or 6 weeks. So we either update or change an existing data model in the data warehouse, or we introduce a new data model for that particular service or product. Um, we actually, in November and December, we introduced two data models so far, new ones. But yeah, in, so within November, and now we're in mid-December. Yeah, we introduced two data models, or updated one and added a new one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not that much.
No, data models, no. And
Yep.
but other things, I mean, the before the data model, because we have a three-tier architecture, we dynamically populate these services and products into our facts and dimensions. So you don't feel like it's not a feel. You don't know if a new product is added into data warehouse uh, only through the announcements we do in the whole bank that we introduce a new.
Yep. Yep. How much time does it take to implement the first version of the data warehouse for the bank? Like maybe from your experience.
My first, it's not my, oh, the teams did the first version. Well, it's six, 6 months period. We had version 0.1. It was a very baby data warehouse, but yet the framework was there, the data loading was there. Uh, I mean, the pipeline, the data pipeline was designed and implemented and executed actually. And we built our first report using the data warehouse dimensions and facts in, yeah, after 6 months period. We were like 5 or 6 people back then. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. Cool. So in terms of the visualizing the data, because well, store the data and keep the data, this is the one thing, and another one is like to visualize the data. Well, would you recommend, or can you just name maybe any solution or how to visualize the data?
Well, as a technologist, I would answer you a very honest question. Honest answer is you can use any visualization tool you would like to use as a data analyst, let's say. But but except, I mean, not but, except don't use offline tools. Offline tools meaning Excel, for example. Don't use Excel. Don't use Power BI, for example, desktop version, I mean. Why? You will ask me why. Because you can't track changes on an offline trend analysis or data analysis report. So, okay, you pull data from tables, right? From the data warehouse to build your own report or what do you call it, like trend analysis or dashboard, right? To visualize the data. Uh, Nobody knows how did you do that visualization except you, right?
Yep.
And if you change any formula in Excel or Power BI, nobody will know about that or understand it except you, right? If you resigned or I don't know what happened to you, someone has to go into your laptop and pull this PBX file or Excel file and see why did he do this formula, etc. But if you use a version controlled uh, 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 tool to visualize and to let the team and you yourself use a common language to um, describe or visualize the data, like bar charts, dashboards, etc., pie charts, or maybe raw data, and probably you will build your own aggregation functions like sum, average, whatever. Uh, this is controlled in a like on GitHub, for example. Someone has to track your changes. Even yourself, you have to track your changes actually as a developer, I mean, as a visualization developer. There are lots of nice visualizations tools now, and the internet is flooded with them. So there's no problem in finding such tools. All tools work fine. I mean, uh, I can't be like rigid and specific about one tool, but the characteristic of the tool you should use is what I just told you. Don't use an offline system. I mean, don't use Excel. Such tools, if you want examples, uh, Power BI on a gateway mode, Looker from Google, well, Google acquired Looker. It has a neat classical way to write your visualizations in it. language called LookML, markup language, Look markup language, and it's version controlled on GitHub as well. So it's a nice tool, and it has caching, etc., persisting the data for a specific period of time if you want. Oracle has its own tools as well, like OBIE, um, and it has a repository that you can version control the changes on it. So these tools are the best tools to use for visualization.
Yeah, thank you very much. What are the top 3 recommendations for the one who would like to build a DVH but has never done it before?
I'll well, I don't want to say a cheesy statement. Everybody say it. Start small, think big. You know, um, you have to start small and have a bigger scope in your mind, but you have to start small. Data as a data is a big term. There's lots of data, so you can't absorb it in a one day, right? You have to zoom in on a one small specific low-hanging fruit success, let's say, and start from there. Simple start, like baby steps. But you have to look ahead, way ahead to, and you have to keep looking ahead. I mean, and build on top of that small initiative, one step at a time. You can do that by running multiple iterations quickly, like in a sprint version. I mean, iterations and agile approach, where you can see your progress very fast every 2 weeks. Um, the second recommendation, I would say, you have to, okay, select, you have to select, well, not you have to as a must. I mean, I recommend that you go with a smallest footprint software tools to run your data loading. Like use very simple and handy tools like Jenkins, for example, small database engine. Don't go one shot into an enterprise edition of Oracle, for example. You can't, you won't need to manage that database from your first day, right? Go light, go light as much as possible with the lowest, smallest footprint you can ever dream of. Don't buy licenses from day one, for example. But again, you have to think big and look for powerful tools and licenses in the future, because you know that you will be flooded with data afterward. Um, the third recommendation is to automate from day zero. You can't think from day one by running things manually. I mean, when I say things, I mean populating data from source systems, inserting data into your data warehouse entities. Don't do that by hand. Don't write scripts. I mean, write scripts and run them automatically, but don't run them yourself. I mean, don't open a console and run a command line. Don't do that. Your life will be like miserable. Even from day one.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is very wise answer. Um, Khaled, and well, you definitely like managed this project for 5 years. So can you name well the biggest lessons learned from your experience?
Mm. Well, the biggest lesson I learned that I have to understand the true, real value of the deliverable. I mean, I'll give you an example. Um, we need to build, for example, a data model for paid salaries, okay? Salaries, not salaries, the employees' salaries. Um, Customers, um, they get paid through the bank, for example, right? We need to build a model that captures this salary transfers for our customers, right? I mean, the lesson I learned, I mean, I need to learn the true value of that model. Why should I do it? I mean, where is the profit, and not necessarily money profit? Where's the gain we as a bank uh, will get if this model popped up today, tomorrow, and people use it? I mean, the lesson I learned is I need to understand the true value of the deliverable before implementing it. Why? Because I don't waste my time, your experience, your money as a bank, uh, your everything, just because we need something nice. I mean, okay, it's nice, but why is it nice? What is this nice thing would give back to me as a value, right? That's the biggest lesson I learned during these 5 years, and still learning it, because people now, people, I mean the employees, once they find out now as we speak after these 5 years that we have rich data models and captured data on the bank, they start to be hungry for reports and analysis, right? So they started to ask too much of trends, analysis, aggregations, etc. I totally understand the love for data, but the lesson here is you have to understand the true essence of the value of that data that I will give you, Mr. Operations Department, before I do it, because I don't want to waste your energy, my energy, and my disk space and my resources just because you love to see the data, right? Probably
Okay.
this is a lesson learned in life, actually, not only in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I have quite interesting question. Well, can an external service provider, like not in-house, but external provider, like for example, Daisus built a data warehouse for a bank?
Um, the short answer is yes. Okay,
Okay.
but well, the journey that matters. The journey of that partnership, let's go with external vendor, is the most important thing. Okay, you can select Dices as a external vendor, but uh, it's like at the beginning you are introduced to new people, etc. But you have to make sure the journey for both sides are in sync, and don't want to say like they work as you expected, but in a way, yes, you need to make them work as you want them to work in a way that's scientifically correct, of course, not like brute force work, right? Um, but yes, it's been a quite journey in this 5 years, and many success stories have been delivered with external vendors like Dices, and yeah, I would recommend. Back to your question, yes, I would recommend partnering with external
Yep.
vendors to build the data warehouse.
Yes. Thank you very much. And can you share with our audience what is master data? What is it?
Okay. Well, master data is critical data in the bank. And again, what's the meaning of critical? Okay. So you would say, someone would say, everything is critical in the bank, right? But no, not like that. Um, the most important critical data is the person's data, PII and PIA. I mean, personally identifiable assets. I mean, the information of the customer's name, date of birth, gender, etc. Uh, this is a critical data. Their accounts and balances, these are critical data. Another critical data is the complexity of the data. I mean, the complexity of the values. For example, the known balance. Okay, how is it calculated? The formula. I mean, I'm not talking about the value itself, like $1,000. I'm not talking about the $1,000. I'm talking about how this $1,000 was calculated. This is the critical data, the data management, master data. The complexity of this calculation or the formula is the master data or one of the master data entities. And yes, you have to know the master data in your bank, identify them as like writing them down, I mean, like on a piece of paper at least.
Yep.
And you have to know where they are stored, I mean, and who stores them or manages them as employees or roles in the bank. This is master data.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And Khalid, so where should the master data, in your opinion, be stored? Like in data warehouse, core banking platform, any other system, maybe?
Okay, again, it's my opinion, right? Um, it should be in a separate system. Let's call it MDM, like Master Data Management System, but it should be highly integrable with the other systems, with the data warehouse, with core banking, with business process management system, CRM, with any other system in uh, the ecosystem of the bank. Why? Because you as data steward and your committee, data committee, will manage the master data in that system. Let's call it the system, the MDM, right? So the catalog, the data complexity, the governance are all in that separate system, right? I don't want to call it separate because it's integrable, right? But other systems like the data warehouse, the core banking system, etc., should seek call the MDM to know what rules and controls to apply on that metadata or the master data in their system. Let me give you an example. For example, the customer name, right? The customer name uh, in the MDM requires to be hashed, let's say, okay? So this is in the MDM. MDM says that the customer name should be hashed. So where is the customer name in the bank is stored? It's like in 3, 4, 6 systems, right? So the systems would call an API, let's call it an API, on the MDM whenever a field called customer name is in that schema, and the rule of hashing will apply automatically on that field when that field is being selected for any query, for example, or in a report. So any report apply this hashing uh, on that integrated system with the MDM before populating the value in front of the one who looking at the report. So this is why it should be in a separate system. So it's controlled by the data stewards.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for this. Khalid, I have two more what I call bonus questions. They are not related to the data warehouse, but to something else. So, like, speaking about the fast growing demand and for next level customer experience in banks, what's your opinion on digital banks like, Revolut and others similar to it?
Uh, well, facts say facts. I mean, now as we look at it, digitally transformed or new banks are ruling the world now, right? So, and lending systems, etc., lending applications. So the world will converge into digital banks. Um Not saying that you will not go to the branch someday. No, you will go there, but most of your transactions will happen online or through apps. And lots of work has been done already to trust, uh, to give trust to such approach of digitally transformed banks. By the way, digitally transformed banks, even existing banks going online, I mean, transforming to be digital, I mean, uh, would would benefit a lot because it's a win-win to everybody. If you cut cost in non-digital, okay, if you cut the cost of the non-digital processes, you can use that money to lend people, right, in lower interest rates because you're lowering your costs eventually when you go digitally. So the bank would love to go digitally because it's cutting its cost and lending more money to people, right? And which increases their profit eventually if people pay, and if the people pay back their loans. I mean. But again, the uh, that's one factor that banks will go digitally. I mean, whether existing banks or newly introduced banks. Plus, if you see the demographics of the world, mostly youth, and youth. I don't think youth ever went into a bank. So everything is digital now in their world. They wouldn't accept to a certain limit to walk into a branch, right? They think that they can do everything online. So yes, banking will go online. You know, from my opinion, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
And
only my opinion.
yeah, and so basically that was my second question. So, what do you see the future of the banking sector? That would be online, and what differentiations could help banks gain a competitive edge? So, I mean, should it be like, well, whatever the amount of online features they will have, or the price, or whatever? What would be that?
Well, it depends on, well, one factor that would give banks a competitive edge against others is localization, let's say, for example, understanding the local market. Because a digital bank with 10 services in country A might not work exactly with these 10 services in country B. Probably you will need only 3 services in country B. So if you can understand the demographics and the economy of that target country, that would differentiate you as a bank. I mean, uh, especially if it's a big bank like HSBC or Paribas or those big banks, if they can localize their digital bank per country, imagine this like one application, mobile application that, okay, this is a dream, by the way. Imagine that there's a banking application that automatically shows features based on your IP address, right? So, and this rule applies on the services, whatever your IP address is, because the localization of that service based on regularity, regulations, compliance, AML, language. Uh, some countries have different understanding of uh, business, right?
Yeah.
So in the US, business as business is totally different than Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia, right? So localization might be a differentiator.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Khalid, for all your answers. It was a pleasure to see you again, and I'm sure that our audience will enjoy our discussion and the thoughts and information which you shared just now. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Ilya.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.